Today is May 14th, 2012. I went up to see my mom yesterday for Mother's Day. We had a good conversation a couple of hours before my daughters came up. I'm a new grandpa. My oldest had her daughter Zoe on the 10th of last month. In our conversation before my daughters got there, we talked about many things. It was a good conversation. Got to talk about the Norse blood in my mother's line of heritage and my father's Latin passionate warm-bloodedness. The cool detachment has been termed the Northern European mentality, and we understand the Latin passions of the warm-blooded southern types. And I got to explain to them how my mother finally shared that she actually had a little bit of anxiety in relationship to groups. And I didn't make a thing of it, but this is the first time she openly admitted it. My mother doesn't. My mother has taken her time to be open, and share who she is. Have the strength and self-confidence to express herself. When she was younger, I think and even today, she has the stance or the posture that self-importance is secondary to the needs of the moment. There are things happening in the moment, and what we experience ourselves comes secondary. But I got to share with Mom and Dad about my interpretation thus far of these two types of warm-bloodedness and cool-bloodedness. That cool detachment, I got to share with her, and she thought that was very interesting. I said, I spoke of Carl Jung and how he, one of the main tenets of Carl Jung's psychology is individuation and individualizing oneself, being an individual, and I brought this into relationship with the northern type of state of being. It's something that the identity is rooted in, and how a person can move to a different type of environment where a collective group mentality is required, and the individual can be treated badly because this is a deterrent to standing out on one's own. Standing on one's own 2 feet, because the premise or the natural bent of the local environment may be to be part of a group and not stand out. And rather than thinking of herself as insecure in some way in groups, it could very well be seen that what she's actually doing by feeling insecure is secretly individualizing herself out. And then this way she fulfills what she identifies at the root of her being as an individual, being an individual person. Whereas my father, I talked to her about the passions in the blood can be sensed as if you don't have those passions flowing up all the time, you can feel a loss of identity. But in the process of the passions coming up all the time, see, the cool detachment of the Norse looks at the passions from a differentiated, individualized, I am an individual, these are my passions. Whereas the warm-bloodedness, I explained, just for descriptive purposes. This is not saying this is an ultimate truth or anything like that. Everything is a vehicle of expression, and the vehicle of expression changes from time to time and place to place. But underneath there's a message that's true. And so these are just vehicles of expression for an underlying message, an underlying truth. And this truth was only relative to my experience, and I was sharing this with them in such a way as well. They were very aware that I'm very aware that I don't hold to any of these tenets, hold fast, with clenched fist. Just, sort of play with them. And this goes to what I was saying about the warm-blooded passions. With the warm-blooded passions, someone that's identified, they identify with their passions, and if they don't have a passion flowing up all the time, they feel a loss of identity, just like the Norse feel if they don't have this sense of self and individuality, standing alone, they can feel a sense of loss of identity. So when they're mixed into a group, the Norse can be mixed into a group mentality. It can, in my experience, be interpreted as a loss of identity to them. But anyway, a common occurrence with the warm-blooded, I was sharing with my father that and my mother, that magic and mysticism become very prevalent. And the reason why magic and mysticism become very prevalent is that in having to deal with these passions, which are truly metaphysical, they're feelings, so to say, not mental constructs that we term emotions, but deeper. They are unnamed. They are thus come, spontaneous. That inexhaustible, replenishing aspect of our life pulse, so to say. With this flowing through us and our identity being rooted in that type of way of being, magic and mysticism come along to try to manipulate the constituents, start working with them and molding them, and we're a part of them, they are a part of us, and we're doing all this stuff with them. And magic and mysticism is a form of doing this stuff, whereas the cool, detached, clear-headed state of identity detaches themselves from these and looks at them in a much more practical way. There's a lot of naming, there's a lot of terms and definitions and all that. So that was just one bit of our conversation, but we came to realize that it had been 10 years to the day that they had kidnapped my children. Now, I didn't use the term kidnap because some terms and their definitions are not easily integrated by people who have put different definitions. They use different terms and definitions. So I don't use the word kidnapping. When I do, it's there because it's a very real experience of mine. However, I let that go. But it had been 10 years to the day since the estrangement of my children. And it happened to be Mother's Day this year. A lot went on. I got to talk to him about some of my studies I've been doing with Heidegger, and talking about the immortal and the mortal, the eternal and the everlasting, and the air and the earth, and these ideas of the water pitcher, and the event and the celebration, and the bringing together of earth and air, and the eternal and the everlasting, the mortal and the immortal.